This is Late Night Health. This is the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. During the next hour, we're going to spend some time with a friend, somebody I've known for a couple of years, but we lost touch and we're back in touch. She has a new book out. She's moved to the other side of the country, and her name is I did it again. God.
Picture the wine.
Yes, Mary Medeiros. And I don't know why I did that. I know why I did that.
It
All
doesn't
right, we're
matter.
going to start that over
Oh, I
again.
know why too from working with actors.
It's my glasses. I can't read real small print yet. All right, here we go.
Or the Madeira Islands with an S.
I'm sorry.
There's also the Madeira Islands off of Portugal,
Ah,
but you
we
have
didn't
just
get to
add an S to it.
Portugal, but Spain, the food in Spain is great. All right, here we go. Nuts. This is Late Night Health. This is the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. And during the next hour, we're going to spend some time with Mary Medeiros. She is a friend. We've known each other for a number of years. We lost touch, but now we're back in touch. She may or may not be happy about that, but we'll find out during the next hour. We're going to talk about from burnout to alignment, why inner healing is gaining attention in uncertain times. And our times are certainly uncertain. Mary, it's so nice to see you and chat with
Oh,
you.
great to be back with you, Mark. Really, I've missed you.
Yeah, I've missed you too, and Christine. Let's talk about your background.
Hmm.
You worked in news, and those little statues that people can see on the video side of this are Emmys. You won three of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Um, you were a director and a producer, an assistant director. You've done it all. Writer?
Writer, yeah, not producing, but yes, directing, AD. I worked my way up to director in New York, which is where I'm from. So yeah, I began right out of college, majored in music in college, which is interesting. And it just turned out to be not the main thing I was going to be doing. However, music informed my work years later in amazing ways. But anyway, so I wound up working as I started as a secretary at CBS in New York and then worked my way up into production as a production assistant, then an assistant director, and then eventually a director of a talk show that was a pretty innovative talk show with Marriott Hartley back in
Oh, I
'86.
remember that show.
Yeah, the morning program.
Yeah.
Yes, that was with Rollin Smith and Marriott Hartley, and it was the first time that a morning news show of the three networks had an audience, a live audience. We launched the careers of Bob Saget, who's now on the other side, Mark McEwen, the weather, comedians, Judy Tenuta, Roseanne Barr. Like it was really innovative and a lot of fun. But you know, the network maybe wasn't ready for news mixed in with comedy and talk back then. So it only lasted about a year. But it was a wonderful experience for me directing that show. And then I left there after that went off and then wound up in soap operas. Slid over into soap operas and that kind of storytelling, different kind of storytelling. And I
Exactly.
worked on, yeah.
Is media still media today? Because there's media on iPhones, on iWatches. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we both wear glasses, and we could get glasses now that have screens in them, and we could be watching news while we're driving. I mean, it's a little scary. Uh, is media still all about a story?
Well, that's a great question. I think we have to look at what aspects of media. News has become not about story, and I'm really proud that I began at CBS News. That was when Dan Rather was the anchor, and 60 Minutes, the original 60 Minutes folks. Some of them are still around, like Leslie Stahl, but Mike Wallace and all of them. That's who I kind of grew up with, and that was when journalism was who, what, when, where, why, and that was it. And that is not where it is at all. How often do you hear stories now on mainstream media when a news story comes out, and the reporter just starts with, they're in the field and they just start with the middle of the story, and you're going, where is this? What happened? We don't even know what happened. So I don't think it's storytelling. I think it's all opinion now and perspective. It's
Even the
opinion.
reporters in the field?
What's that?
Even the reporters in the field?
Yeah, they don't.
Opinion?
Yeah, yeah, they don't. They're not the core of journalism is has is not being followed, in my opinion, right? Which is interesting. So I don't know if all of these people have come out of journalism school or if the standards have changed in journalism schools. I'm not quite sure, but it's like not. It's they jump to like the middle of the story as it because they're going on the air over and over if it's something that just broke, right? But every
Right.
time they go on the air, this may be the producer's responsibility as well. But when they go on the air, they've got to recap at least if it's 5 words.
Yeah,
There
we're
was a
here
bombing,
at a fire
yeah,
or a bank
which broke out
robbery.
5 hours ago, and it's da da da, and then go on. But they don't do that. So it may be, producing as well. So it's the whole arena of that area has shifted into full out perspective and opinion and leaning one way or another. And I think people are getting sick of that. They just want to hear what happened. Now, that storytelling? I think it's just telling the truth. Event happens and you tell it. So maybe it's turned into storytelling. I don't know. But then the other part
We're
of,
going to be talking. We're going to be talking about
mhm.
your book in a little bit. But do people believe the news? I won't watch certain channels because I don't believe them. I don't think they're news. I see a promo for them coming up on the news, and I know it's not going to be news because
Right.
it's slanted. And every year, just to be really clear, journalism schools do research on the major news organizations. CBS, Fox, um, ABC. Who am I leaving out? NBC. Um,
NBC.
uh, and they do these studies to see if they're left, right, or in the center. CNN, MSNBC, all of these. And for the most part, most of them are in the center. CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC is slightly to the left. Fox is over to the right. Um,
Well, let's talk about that because I'm not quite sure where that information is coming from because the networks like CNN used to be in the middle, but they're not now. And CBS used to be in the middle and they're not now.
where are
So
they?
they're careful. Call it what you want. They're careful. Now, what has to be in this conversation that we're having is the fact that those organizations are corporate run. That's it. They're corporate run. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize, people are talking today about how the news is run by the government. Yes, but they're acting like it's new. When I worked in the newsroom at CBS, I remember being there when John Lennon was shot and killed. I remember being there when Anwar, the peacemaker Anwar Sadat, was killed. And we went on many times, we would go on the air because we had, reporters in those areas of the world.
Right.
And so we were getting it straight from the reporters. They'd be in the streets there, saying, yeah, Anwar Sadat was killed. And Dan Rather went on the air to report that. And the State Department, we had a phone, we called it the bat phone. We had to keep it like off off the hook. But it
Right.
was the State Department called and they ordered us to go back on the air immediately and recant that, even though we knew that it was real. And so Dan Rather was brilliant.
Recant that Sadat had been killed?
Uh-huh, yes. I was there when this happened. And so, it was really frustrating. And it's because it was the slant or whatever the story was being told the way Washington wanted it to be told. So it was the State Department. It didn't matter who was president. And so there was that happening. And I would be, I had crazy hours I was working, as you can imagine. We were on the air all the time.
Right.
And
We're
I
going to
would be,
take, speaking of being on the air, we're going to take time out for just a
okay,
little bit. And then when we come back, we'll continue because this is very important stuff. And then let's try to bridge this into the Akashic records and find out how that works together. If it
good.
works together, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Hmm.
This is Late Night Health. I'm Mark Alyn. Our guest is Mary Medeiros. And you can find out more about Mary by going to latenighthealth.com. That's latenighthealth.com, where you'll see a pretty picture of Mary. You'll see about her book, and there'll also be a place to go to her website as well. All of that at latenighthealth.com. I'm Mark Alyn. We'll be back as Late Night Health continues. Don't go away. Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn. Our guest is three-time Emmy Award winner Mary Medeiros. And Mary, we were talking about the news, and there's like we used to call it in radio a hot phone,
Hmm.
where if somebody said something on the air, that hot phone would ring, the engineer would pick it up and say to the host, you got to listen, you've got a hot call.
Well, the hot phone was actually those phone calls were made to the executive producers or the president of CBS News. And so that's how it worked. And well, anyway, so there were things that were happening, including the Beirut crisis. I worked through that at CBS. Again, I was on the production end, but our Marines were over there, and I was responsible, myself and many others, for taking live footage in raw footage from our CBS, what do you call it, where we were in those
Right.
areas in Beirut. And so I would be on a phone to Beirut, and the engineer there would be feeding in footage that had just been shot. I should say videoed, because I was taking in footage of terrorist acts that were going on, and they were horrible. Marines who had just been shot and limbs flying. I mean, really bad stuff. And so that would come in raw, and we'd already be on the air. It was oh, I'm forgetting her name now.
Huh.
Diane Sawyer. She was the
Ah,
host of the show I was working on. And so that would be coming in, and they'd be screaming from the control booth 2 floors up, turn that around now, cover that up, cut around that. And it piled up on me. We were all very stressed, because what the pileup for me was how we were hiding from the American public what terrorism looked like. Now, of course, we don't want to see blood and guts.
yeah, I was just going to ask that.
No, right. But there's a way to do that. And it was real. And it was so stressful. There was
40
one
years
time,
later, 40 years later, if you go
yeah.
and you see a movie today, they
Mm-hmm.
don't hide anything. You see
No,
somebody going to the bathroom, which I think is disgusting.
I know.
And
So do I.
right, I mean, it just doesn't add to the story. But you also see somebody getting shot and their chest explodes and blood comes out, the heart falls out. I don't personally watch that kind of movie or TV show. I don't
No,
need.
neither do I. But remember, that's accepted as fiction, and in our on some level, viewers that are watching that are knowing it's not real. Now, cut back 40 years ago, and it's no different now. in a newsroom taking in this awful footage over and over again. Even these really tough New York editors, these guys, they would be like, I'm not doing this. They would get sick sometimes because they were the ones who had to literally edit with me these things out. I mean, there was one time where there was an explosion at a train station in Germany. It was a terrorist act, and our crews happened to be there right at the explosion. They were okay, but they fired up and they filmed, and it was. I mean, I saw a woman with her baby, and the baby just you don't want to know. And I had
Got
to
it.
cut around that. I had to cut the baby out,
Do
and it's
you
like
think
it.
that
Yeah,
that this kind of material, uh, even if it's a story, even if it's fiction, and of course you're watching the news and you're watching a baby explode, which is,
yeah.
yeah,
I went to therapy over that one.
I would think so. But do you think that it affects some people so badly that they emulate these tragedies, these
I think all
terrorist?
of that can happen. Sure, that's possible that can happen. But, how different is that than the sexualizing of women that's all over the place, even if they're clothed? You know what I'm saying? It's like, so we're putting images out. There's such a, I really feel that this conversation should be about the responsibility of those who put these images out there, right? Do you just not ever show what's happening? No, but I think you have to intelligently let people know that there's something really bad happening. And how do you do that? So do you just cover everything up, and do you just show everything? No, of course not. There's ethics, right? And we have children watching TV, things like that. So I think it affects people in various ways. Sometimes it puts a fire under people to understand that there's a situation going on somewhere and we better do something about it. And if we cover it up completely, no one's ever going to know. For example, do people in the United States really, really, really know, maybe in Minnesota now, but do they really know what it's like, what war is like? We don't know that here.
No, you're in North Carolina. I'm in Southern California,
Yeah.
and the people in Minnesota, uh, they've seen people dragged out of their cars
And killed.
and killed, uh,
Right.
and there's no accountability.
But as a country, so actually, good question here would be: should the news, or it wasn't mainstream right away, but should there have been clips of Renee Good, who was killed, and the other fellow, I forgot his
Yeah,
name.
I
I'm so
can't. I do
sorry.
too.
Yeah, but maybe
Is there footage of their being killed? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, it was out all over everywhere, and
right.
so I think that it was important that that was out there.
And
Now it
I
wasn't.
have,
Yeah.
they used to call it citizen journalism when the internet started, and you
Mm-hmm.
could do a blog, and then you could do an audio, and then you could do video.
Yeah.
Um, I have a problem with that because they classify it as news, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not trained journalists.
No, they're not. I agree. No, they're not. But if we didn't have the videos being shown to the American public of what happened to Renee Good, our own State Department would have conned the country into thinking that those agents were protecting themselves and that she was trying to run them over. So there's an example. This is a conversation. My gosh, we could do a whole show on this over and over. It's like, where are the lines? What are the dividing lines? But thank God that there were people with iPhones or phones that recorded what was happening. And so it showed that Washington was lying to people.
Can can we blend or justify, maybe that's a better word,
Mm-hmm.
um, spirituality
Mm-hmm.
with what's going on in the world today?
Yeah, I think the way to maybe it's not blending them, but maybe it is bringing a spiritual aspect of each one of us to the table of our lives. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, and I'm not speaking of religion. That's something entirely different. It's not about religions. Spirituality is this acknowledging, for me and the work that I do with the Akashic Records, it's acknowledging and seeing that we are all beings of light. Some people would disagree with me right now and go, "Are you going to tell me that certain people are light?" Yeah, we really are. Inside, we all are that. We're light, we're love.
All of us,
All of us. Yes. Now here's what happens.
even ones that we disagree with.
Yes, even ones that we disagree with. What I have learned working in the divine realm is that, and I already resonated with it, obviously, or it wouldn't have stuck with me, is that when people really harm others, okay, there's a common denominator there among people, men and women, who are really harming people. We're seeing a lot of that right now. And that is, they don't know that they are love. They don't know that they're light. They've never been shown it, experienced it, and we can, rewind. This
Right.
is the 100%.
I have a feeling that maybe some of that light dims when they do something stupid or really bad. Mary, we're going
Well,
to take time out
okay.
again and we'll pick up because I want to talk about your book, The Akashic Way, Living Through the Lens of the Akashic Records. We'll find out about that coming up here on Late Night Health. Join us at latenighthealth.com. Mary, what's your website?
It's easy. The akashicway.com.
theakashicway.com. I'm going to
Yes.
spell that, by the way. Akashic is how you spell that. All right. All right. We'll be back just a couple of moments. Don't go away as Late Night Health continues. Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn, along with Mary Medeiros, and her book is called The Akashic Way, Living Through the Lens of the Akashic Records. A couple of months ago, I read a story, science fiction or fantasy, I don't remember what, and I can't remember the name of the book. It may even have been a couple of years ago. And I thought of Mary because I knew she was into the Akashic Records. We're going to find out how she got there. But the story was about a library. It was a physical library on another plane, another dimension, if you will. And this library was huge, but it only had one librarian. And the one librarian, you could walk up and say, "What about this?" Whatever it was. And he would say, "Go over to aisle 14 and look under this," and somebody else would ask about something else. He knew everything in this library. And I always thought that was like the Akashic Records. Would that be an accurate kind of simplification of the Akashic Records, Mary?
Well, some people do imagine it as the records as a library. So what's interesting about the records is that they have been around since the beginning of time, known by many other names, such as the Book of Life in the Bible, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Quran's got a version. Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, was accessing the Akashic realm. And so the idea is that there is a quantum field, a quantum divine realm, a field that exists. It's a living essence. And the nature of it is that it records, we can call it spiritual imprints of every soul's journey, lifetime after lifetime. So when we access our library, we'll call it, of the Akashic Records, we're opening up literally our own soul, our individual soul's journey, lifetime after lifetime. Everything we've thought, said, done, experienced, right?
It's there.
It's there. And what now is interesting is quantum physics is now in their way, in its way, tapping into the idea of a measurable, quantumly measurable field. And you know who else talks about it is Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's a lot of his work. It brings you to a meditative state where you actually go into this field, and everything in this field and everything and anything about yourself is there. You can literally just go there and get what it is you need or want. Now,
Can you, I'm sorry, I
yeah,
didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, that's okay.
can you go into the Akashic records and look at situations, okay? Is war coming? Is famine coming? Are we going to have um, a drought? Even though we've had a lot of rain this year, will we have a drought in Southern California? Can you, those kinds of things, or is it
Not really, but you can get there another way through the records. So the records are not a prediction tool. They're because what is recorded in the records is what has already happened and what is happening right now. So, for example, and then let me add to it that anything that exists has its own Akashic imprint. So, for example, when you asked about might there be war, we would look at where do you think there might be? So now we can go to that area. For example, I opened up the Akashic records several years ago on the Middle East. So because the Middle East exists, it's in the public, it's a living, breathing thing, the Middle East, collectively, of course.
Mhm.
So I opened up the records of the Middle East. I can open up the records of a country, of a city, of a location. So that's where you would find out a little bit more about what the imprint of that region is or a sacred site. And when you get that information, that is going to lead you to understand possibilities and probabilities. And that's where you can kind of get a gauge on, wow, something could happen here. For example, let's say it's an area that had strife for 2,000 years and there was a goal, and we open up, I don't know, Bethlehem or I don't know, somewhere, Mary
Sure.
Magdalene's cave, and we open up the records of that specific location. The essence, the imprint of what happened there and what it wanted to be and what it was and how it existed, it could have an incompletion to it. That area could say, I was designed to do blah, blah, blah. And we could see in history that it hasn't done blah, blah, blah yet. So that would lead us to think, well, maybe it's still possible that that event or blah, blah, blah could happen. So
Would
that's
that
so, yeah.
also uh,
Hmm.
be for a person to say, you know,
Yeah.
he or she looks in the Akashic records and, you know, they're supposed to do blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, it is not very specific like that because we have free will. And as souls, the idea is that before we incarnate, we make choices. As a soul, we make a choice to incarnate in a particular lifetime. And what we're choosing, we're not given some edict. We're not given, and we're not even given choices. We're just choosing why we're coming here. And the choice involves, I like to call them overarching themes, like I'm coming in to participate in compassion, or I'm coming to this lifetime to spread the idea of love of oneself, let's say self love. So it is like that, right? And so when we then incarnate, everything in our lives, we find this out in when we visit our records, everything, even when we have traumatic childhoods, everything that happens in our lives always participates in that original soul's chosen journey. And we get to discover that because people will go, don't tell me I was, somebody might have been raped when they were 8 years old. And now they're saying, how could that play into what I'm doing now? Well, when we really do the work in the records and look through the lens of our Akashic records, that divine lens, we do see the meaning and value of everything that we have gone through and how it always supports our original soul's chosen journey.
How did you get involved? I mean, have you always been, and I don't even know if this is correct. To me, when I think of the Akashic records, and I
Mm-hmm.
know so little about them, that it's a spiritual
Mm-hmm.
in essence. How did you get involved? I mean, how do you go from being a director of news and soap operas uh, to to becoming an expert in the Akashic records?
Well, not an expert, but certainly working in this realm. Okay, well, I always had it in me, and I think when it's part of my soul's journey as well, I should say, and I've discovered that. But I was led to it um, because I was already overlapping metaphysical topics and processes when I was still working at the network. So I would go to Abraham Hicks conferences or workshops. I followed, Oprah was doing more metaphysical stuff, The Seed of Your Soul, that guy, Gary Sukoff, they were all Eckhart Tolle. I was always leaning into that. And so I was realized now that it was a pre-paving for me of another aspect of my life that was actually really the larger part of why I'm here. The
Would
reason
you
that I,
say, and
yeah, go ahead.
we only have 50 seconds for this,
Hmm.
and that is, would you say that the Akashic records have improved your life?
Oh, tremendously. Absolutely. I expand because it's God, divine source creator, whatever we want to call it. It's divinity itself. It is the light and love of God that is flowing through everything on this planet and every human being.
What we're going to do in our next segment is pretty simple. We're really going to blend life with the Akashic records.
Hmm.
And we're going to put Mary on the spot to do that. Um, Join us at latenighthealth.com. That's latenighthealth.com. We'll have information about Mary up there on that. And you'll be able to hear our conversation as well as see our conversation at latenighthealth.com. All right, Mary and I will be back in just a couple of moments as we move forward. Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn. We are spending some time with the author of The Akashic Way, living through the lens of the Akashic records. Mary Medeiros is our guest. I called you an expert in this. Is anybody an expert in the Akashic records?
Is anybody an expert in anything? No. That's a trap. That's a trap. We're just good and we get better and we get better and we get better.
What about a chef? I mean, they could be an expert in Portuguese food and know what a cataplana is.
But see, I think that's mastery. I don't think that's being an expert.
Oh, okay. Do
There's
you
a
know what a
difference.
cataplana is?
No.
Okay, it's a Portuguese walk. All right. Totally out of it. But the Akashic records, can anybody open them up?
Mm-hmm. Yes. In the past, thousands of years ago, it was usually mystics and holy people, probably men, who had access to the realm. That's that's because they were able to in an easier way raise their vibration. I'm going to call it vibration right now. So the Akashic realm is a higher vibration. Divine is a higher vibration and a higher conscious space. And and the reason more people are able to access the records now, I believe, is because the planet has our whole humanity has been expanding. We are raising the level of consciousness on the whole planet is raising, vibration is expanding, the magnetics are speeding up on the planet. There's a lot of good things happening and
But at the
raising.
same time, we
Yeah,
see
I know. Knew you were going to say
such
that.
junk. I mean, such crap. My wife, and I try to do it too, watches the last 5 minutes of ABC News. And the reason we watch the last 5 minutes is that David always has a positive story to end the night. CBS
Yeah.
doesn't do it. NBC doesn't do it. I don't
Okay,
know
so
anybody.
this is important. The Akashic Realm has been downloading lots of messages for humanity, most of what's in my book, and there's more every time I open the records. And the main thing that they're talking about all the time, reminding us, it's a reminder that we really are very powerful. We are powerful, divine essences of Source itself. We are that. That's just divine fact, divine law, maybe, right?
You say
And so
source, so it's like um, uh, we're part of God.
we are it. It's a mirror of us. We are we're the essence of it. It's the essence of us. So I like to say it's not a bearded man in the clouds, which is what I grew up with, right? On the religion books. That's
Right.
not, I never thought it was that when I was little. It just didn't make sense to me. So to explain the chaotic stuff, we also are living in a dense dimensional reality. I mean, we can't discuss this without acknowledging that there are dimensions beyond third dimension, and there are things about human life, third dimension, and there are things beyond it that we may not even have discovered yet. And the Akashic records land in that space. It's an ethereal space that is a mirror essence of God Source itself. And so we are that. Now, when we don't know we are that, we just don't know for whatever reasons, then we act as if we are not love and light. And that's the mess we get in. Eckhart refers to it as the collective ego conscious, and the records affirm that. The ego is very tricky. That collective ego conscious fears its own demise, and it's been created out of an unlove, a not knowing of love, no familiarity with love. And I mean like greater love, the bigger
Love
picture of
between two
love.
people, love of the planet, love of.
Love of oneself. It has to begin with one love of oneself, not from the ego perspective, but knowing your light. What does that mean? It means that you have compassion for each other, that you give each other a break. I mean, on a third dimensional level, we have to give each other breaks. That doesn't mean we justify bad behavior and people who are harming others. And that's where it gets confusing. I'm actually one of probably few people that loves the idea of restorative justice. When a perpetrator meets with the person they've harmed in some way, and they actually see each other for the first time. And some people would say that's absolutely insane. No, it's not, because at the center of everything is love. And
But
when I was,
but don't we
yeah,
do that? Somebody kills somebody, and the the surviving member
mm-hmm,
of the family of the person who's died gets to see the person who perpetrated the crime.
mm-hmm.
Isn't that the same thing?
Not well, if they're seeing them in court, no.
Yes.
No,
No.
the restorative justice, which some prisons, are using, but again, we don't hear about this because there are many more entities in charge that don't know about love. And we know that. There are massive organizations on our planet now that are not operating out of love. Why? Because their CEOs, founders, whoever the stakeholders are, they don't know that they are love and light. They just don't know it. So they just act out from not that perspective, right? And so then we get what we have now. It just collects and collects and collects into this massive ego soup. And the only thing that can pop that soup, let's say, or pop that, it's like a balloon that keeps filling up, is love. That's the only thing. And that sounds pie in the sky. And I want to say, Mark, when I was little, I came from a family, racist father, Archie Bunker dad, racist, hated everybody. Grew up in New York, where all cultures were there. I had three brothers that were one that was a bully. So not very educated family, and I was fighting with them all the time because I actually do believe that people are good inherently. Inherently, that doesn't mean they're not doing bad things. That
Good
I'm not
people can
justifying.
do bad things.
People can do bad things if they don't know that they are loved. I had a brother who had a heart of gold, one of my brothers, and he was a heroin addict his entire life and was in and out of jail. He stole from people. He did bad things. He never like killed anyone, thank God. But, I knew his heart. I knew his heart, but he didn't know his heart. And there are reasons that he didn't know his heart from how he grew up in our family. So we can look at these individuals who are wreaking havoc, okay, and harming others. And every single one of them, if we sit down with them from the perspective of light, love, probably, monks would do this, we will see that we will see, I always do. I see this in everybody, but I was made fun of that when I was little. Everyone said I was stupid and naive and wait until you grow up and you'll see people are bad. And I never bought into it, thank God, because I live by that. And that is why I can so quickly and easily hear these messages from Divine Realm itself, because it is all pure positive consciousness and love all the time.
When
So
you
our,
meet when you
yeah, go
meet
ahead.
somebody for the first time, do you say, "Gee, they don't know that they're loved"? Can you
Yes,
like that?
I can. Yes, absolutely. I can see that they don't know it. They don't see it. They haven't experienced it. And are some people going to be here and they never will? Maybe it could be that part of their soul's journey that by their not, we have people that are running countries right now that are this way. What is their role? Do they have a role? According to the Akashic records, yes. And I have to say, I was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, oh, I don't know, a couple months ago. And George said, and he's a sweetheart, and he
Hmm.
asked me, live, he said, are you going to tell me that the serial killer is not going to Hades? You know, and I said, according to the Akashic records, George, no, no.
Well, and there are religions that don't believe in a hell,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe a purgatory and a halfway place, but um, that would be for really vile people, I would
But
think.
I don't believe any of that exists because of what I now know.
Got it.
And Edgar Casey didn't either. And he was accessing the same realm. Those are religions, are perceptions that have been handed down. It's like playing telephone. I think
Yeah.
religions are the result of having played telephone with the messages from God, right? And it goes through time after time and different people and different years and thousands of years. And how much of it is the original message? Do we really know? No,
Do you
we
think
don't
do you
really know.
think God is going, listen, listen, you're missing the point. You blew it. Try it again.
No, I think God is saying, you are all magnificent beings of light, and I'm always here to mirror that to you. That's what I think God is saying.
Mary, this has been such a fascinating hour. Will you come back sometime?
I would love to. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. This is fun.
Yeah.
You're good, Mark.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. All right. The name of the book, again, is The Akashic Way, Living Through the Lens of the Akashic Records. And it's available every place that good books are sold.
Well, it's just available on Amazon right now,
Okay.
in Kindle and paperback.
Got it.
Hmm.
And just so you know, again, that Mary's a three-time Emmy Award-winning director and an advanced Akashic Records practitioner. That's how that works. And you can find out more about Mary by going to theakashicway.com.
Yes, that's my website.
That's
Yes.
your
And then
website.
if you also have any questions, you can just email me at mary@theakashicway.com.
Got it.
So
Mary, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
you're
And thank
welcome, Mark.
I so excited. Thank you. Um, well, that wraps up this edition of Late Night Health. I'm Mark Alyn. Have a good week. Have a great week. And most importantly, well, two things. Love yourself and have a healthy week. We'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.